From the Oklahoman Podcast Studio, my name is Jenni Carlson. I'm here with Barry Tramel, and this is the inaugural podcast of...
Us.
We don't have a name yet, folks.
You don't like Press Row?
Well, it's our video stuff.
Well, I mean, it could be. We could make it like an institution, almost like a.
It's our brand?
Yeah, it's our brand.
All right, so here's the deal.
We could have a golf tournament. Call it Press Row.
You want a golf tournament?
Not particularly. If I have, unless all I have to do is play.
Could we have T-shirts?
I'm not big on T-shirts.
What?
I like sweatshirts.
How about long sleeve T-shirts? I like long sleeve T-shirts.
If they don't have a bunch of logos on the back that stick to your back.
Stick to your
I
back?
put stuff on the back of T-shirts, and I don't like it. It's like sort of rubs against your back. If it's just...
Okay. All right. Well, okay, so here's the deal. We're either going to be the Press Row Podcast, or if you think you have a better idea on a name, email us. Tell us what you think our podcast should be called. We might listen to suggestions.
Well, we will listen to suggestions, but any untoward suggestions will be summarily discarded and you won't hear from us.
That's right. That's right. You're not going to be invited to the golf tournament. So make it good. Email us your suggestions, and if we get a good one,
we might use it.
We might use it. Otherwise, Press Row's the leader in the clubhouse. You got to beat Press Row. So we're podcasting on the day of the NBA trade deadline. Barry, you and I, speaking of Press Row, taped a Press Row segment yesterday where we talked about the Thunder and the trade deadline. And when we taped, we said, this one's probably going to go quietly. We're probably not going to have too much happen with the Thunder. About 3 hours later, we found out that Reggie Jackson's agent had requested a trade for Jackson, and everything changed. So our opening segment, the big lead, is obviously the trade deadline. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I think we discovered how much the Thunder wanted to get rid of Reggie Jackson, because I don't think it was a great trade. If Enes Kanter ends up signing long-term and develops, I mean, that could really be a nice trade. But short-term, it's not good at all.
Yeah.
Long-term, it's iffy. So I think this was a case of let's get rid of Reggie Jackson, even if it means trading Kendrick Perkins. So, everybody knows me. I don't like the idea of playing, 5 minutes without Perk on my team. So I just think this shows they wanted to get rid of Reggie Jackson.
Well, it's interesting, a couple things. So this morning after shoot-around, Russell Westbrook asked about Reggie Jackson and made it pretty darn clear he wanted no part of Reggie Jackson on his team anymore. And at that point, nothing had been done. And I just thought that was interesting that Russell was so open with his disdain for the way, I guess, Reggie had become on the team, Barry. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he has had some pouting moments, but it really sounds like that these guys were getting frustrated with him.
I think it was on the court. Just a lack of defensive effort at times, the lack of getting back, the lack of offensive focus, dribble, jack up a rainbow 21-footer.
Yeah.
Reggie has never been a good defensive player, but he's been a good offensive player quite a bit of his time here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Been spectacular at times. But he's got to be aggressive. He's got to go to the basket. He's got to be engaged. And for too many stretches, certainly less than 50% of the time, but still a decent amount of time, he hasn't been engaged. And in the NBA, you got to be engaged.
Yeah.
You can't go floating through a season because people will expose you. And I think the Thunder got tired of that act.
Well, and remember, too, Reggie Jackson has long been kind of the little brother of this team. I mean, there's been many occasions when guys have, looked with disdain or yelled or done something that made you, realize that this guy has gotten a lot of guff from teammates because I think they've expected a lot out of him, and sometimes he hasn't delivered. So there's always kind of been that back and forth. But that was just, to me, there was sort of I think those guys were dealing with it as best they could, but then when the news came out that he wanted to be traded and it became even more in their face that this guy didn't want to be there, didn't want to be part of the team, didn't want to sacrifice, didn't want to, do all the things that this franchise talks about doing on a regular basis to be a really good team, I think Russell Westbrook's frustration was probably mirrored by a lot of these guys. And it's going to be interesting to see what becomes of Reggie Jackson, though. I'm kind of curious. Now that he has a chance to be the guy to start, there's talk that that he's going to get that chance right away. Does he become a great point guard in this league?
Well, I think great's a little heavy. I think he can be.
Who is he in this league?
I think he can be a good point guard. And I think they traded him to the perfect place. I think Detroit, Milwaukee, what Indiana used to be, they got really good the last 2 years. But a point guard who's really good and playing on a team that's really not going anywhere, but is a pretty good team. I mean, Eastern Conference playoff caliber team, 6, 7, 8 seed. Mm-hmm. I think that's what Reggie Jackson is, and I think if they'd have sent him to Milwaukee, it'd be the same thing. Michael Carter Williams, similar type level of player, not the same style, but his level of player went to Milwaukee today, and I think he'll be fine there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be in the NBA Finals anytime soon. So I think that's the kind of thing he is. I think he's a good, solid point guard on a decent team.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a star. I don't think he's going to be a.
Is he going to be an all-star?
Well, in the East, all kinds of people are all-stars.
True.
So he would have a chance, but I also think it's less than 50-50. And I think he's going to be on teams that are largely just so-so.
Mm-hmm. I wonder how Sam Presti feels about Reggie Jackson right now, because I wrote this today, and I don't know if Sam will ever come clean. Probably not, but I got the feeling, the more I thought about this, that Sam Presti felt like he had Reggie Jackson pegged. Like he knew Reggie Jackson is one of our guys. He has that Thunder DNA we hear all about. He's going to be in it. We're going to be able to re-sign him. We're going to be able to get him for the long term. I wonder what he missed on. I wonder what happened there, Barry.
Well, I think he just misjudged him.
Yeah.
I think you can't hit them all in terms of character.
Sure.
Can't hit them all on talent, for crying out loud. How are you going to hit them all on character, which is something you really can't see?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think he had Reggie pegged as a big time character guy, a foundational type player, and a guy that would want to buy in, even though he wouldn't be a Durant or Westbrook level guy, and he just missed it. I mean, he instead became a guy that was hungry for the limelight, and similar to the Harden deal, other than he's not the player Harden was while they were here.
Right.
And, you can't blame Harden for wanting to go on. And Harden, I think, knew what he was capable of. I think Jackson feels like he's capable of much more. Mm-hmm. Probably saw the James Harden model. So you can't really blame him either unless he knows in his heart that he can't do that. Now, if he goes to Detroit and averages 13 points a game and 7 assists and plays 3 years and his collective record is under 500, I would say he misgauged his career. Now, if he goes and makes the All-Star team and, Detroit has some good times under Stan Van Gundy, we'll look back and say, well, good going, Reggie. You made a good call in your career. Mm-hmm. But, it could go either way. He could go play in anonymity because sometimes that happens in the East with mediocre teams. I know this. If you're playing with Durant and Westbrook, you're going to be on the stage. And while you might not be what we call a superstar, in other words,
you're going to win a lot of games.
I don't know. Let's pick somebody in the East. I don't know who's a really good player in the Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
Andre Drummond, Detroit, a blossoming star. I promise you, America knows a lot more about Kawhi Leonard than they do Andre Drummond.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Just whatever you want in life. It's just whatever you want in life.
Right. Did the Thunder get better in the short term or the long term with what happened today?
I don't. Short term, no. Mm-hmm. Now our man Anthony Slater seems to think Kyle Singler's the greatest thing since I don't know Llewellyn. He's a white Llewellyn Dang, I guess, for crying out loud.
Same college. I don't think it's quite the same. I don't know if he was going that far, but
he's talking about what a good defender he is, and maybe he is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if Singler turns into a rotational player, personally, I don't see it. Mm-hmm. I mean, is he any better than Perry Jones? Maybe he is, but he gets to play more.
Yeah.
But
maybe more consistent.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But if Singler doesn't develop into a two-way player, I mean a rotational player, DJ Augustine is just so-so. I think he's sort of a journeyman point guard. He's better than Ish Smith, and I'm not going much beyond that. However, so it looks to me like they traded 2 valuable players for 1 valuable player. And unless the 1 valuable player that you brought in, which in this case is Enes Kanter, unless he's a big-time stud, it looks like you've taken a step back to me.
Yeah. Well, in the short term, it's definitely going to be a tough road because tonight they're going against the Mavericks. Steven Adams is still hurt. Perk is gone. Cantor's not here. Mitch McGary, paging Mitch McGary, you got an extra pair of shoes because you're going to play a ton tonight. I mean, and who knows how quickly some of this stuff's going to happen. Steven Adams, I think, gets reevaluated in another week or so. They better hope his recovery's going well because, yeah, in the short term, you're looking at giving a lot of minutes to a lot of guys at that center position. Now, if Kanter, it's going to be interesting. If Kanter can develop, if Steven Adams is ready to be the guy, and Serge Ibaka can be more like the Serge Ibaka defensively we saw in the last few years, that's interesting. That's interesting to me.
Well, the key to this trade, in my mind, is Steven Adams.
Yeah.
He's the key to the trade. If Steven Adams is ready, and he's shown signs of it, if he's ready to be not as good as Perk on defense, but if he can be a defensive center, an effective defensive center, well, then everything changes. If he can play rugged post defense without fouling, which he's done a better job recently than earlier or last season, then all of a sudden, things change. Because what has happened with Steven Adams is he's gone from the Thunder's offensive center, he's now the Thunder's defensive center. So, I think that's a case of it sort of rests on Steven Adams now. And let's say that happens. Let's say Adams is ready to play NBA post defense and is solid at it. And post defense isn't just muscling up to Zach Randolph and those guys and Dwight Howard. I mean, post defense includes playing the pick and roll. And just making Steph Curry and the guys in Damian Lillard and all those guys, make them hesitate instead of just going around the corner. If you make them hesitate, you've sort of negated their pick and roll offense. Kendrick Perkins made guys hesitate. It's just the pick and roll defense worked better with Perk in there, and Adams has to get to that point. But if he does, well, then they might, they'll probably be okay if Kanter can sign. If you can keep him, he's in the same shape as Reggie Jackson. He's going to be a restricted free agent this summer, and the Thunder can decide whether to keep him or not. And I don't know. I haven't investigated enough to know what the market is for Kanter, but I would assume that it would be roughly along the lines of what Reggie Jackson would make.
Probably.
So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely interesting. We'll close with this on this trade. What does this do for the Thunder if they make the Western Conference final, or if they make the Western Conference playoffs? We've long said we think they're going to get there. Did anything happen with this team or with other teams that makes you think if they do make the playoffs, they've got a better or worse chance of maybe winning and advancing in the playoffs?
Well, it's interesting. I think it all depends on what your goal is.
Okay.
This trade actually helps them in the first round because it looks like they're going to play Golden State.
Right.
And Kendrick Perkins is not valuable against Golden State.
True.
I mean, I talked about the pick and roll some, but
that's not his series.
He's not playing much against Golden
that's
State.
Not
he might
his
have
series.
played. He might have played in a 7-game series. He might have played 60, 70 minutes total. 8-9 minutes a game. So it doesn't really hurt him. It probably helps him. Now, if you get past Golden State, here comes the Clippers. Here comes Memphis. Here comes Portland. Here comes Houston. Here comes San Antonio. Here comes a series of teams that not only do you need a guy like Kendrick Perkins has helped you beat those teams in the playoffs. So I don't see the Thunder winning 2 Western Conference series without Perkins past Golden State.
I'm just thinking about, remember what he did last year to DeAndre Jordan in the Clippers series?
Right.
Holy cow.
Lob City went the way of the wind.
Yeah.
And people say, well, he can't guard
younger
he can't keep
big
him.
men.
Well, he can't keep him from jumping up for lobs. Here's what he did. People don't realize it, but the Thunder's got the ball, and a shot goes up, And if DeAndre Jordan doesn't rebound it, he's taking off, zipping for the other end. Well, the refs can't watch everything. Kendrick Perkins is body, he's bear hugging and grabbing jerseys, doing everything. And DeAndre Jordan is saying, "Oh man, let go of me. I want to get to the other end and dunk." And Kendrick says, "Give me about 3 seconds and then I'll let you go."
Yeah.
And he didn't get the fast break with Jordan and Blake Griffin to some degree.
Yeah.
Just wasn't as effective because Perkins knows how to slow that stuff down.
Yep.
So they're going to miss that kind of thing.
Yep.
Bodying up to LaMarcus Aldridge, who's not even a center, but Kendrick Perkins is the Thunder's best defender on Aldridge by a long shot. Tim Duncan, just a variety of ways. I'm not trying to paint Kendrick Perkins up into an MVP candidate.
No.
He's a liability on offense. You didn't want to throw him the ball. But he is so solid on defense. And that's when you got Westbrook and Durant, you've got an offense.
Yeah.
You need to stop some people.
Just got to make sure you can stop somebody.
Just stop somebody, and Kendrick Perkins helped the Thunder stop people.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see some of these games that are left this regular season when the Thunder plays some of these teams that they could potentially see beyond Golden State. What does that look like? How do they compare? Maybe they're just ready to get into track meet mode. We talked about this on the Thunder Thursday Hangout earlier today. Maybe they're just ready to be like a lot of these other teams in the West and try to outscore you 142 to 141. Maybe that's where they're pointing right now. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see in some of these games that are left against some of those other track meet type teams. What do they do? How do they handle those bigs? I don't have an answer. I'm ready to see myself, but I think those are going to be some telling nights for sure for the Thunder. Let's break this big lead segment and let's do something else, Barry. Obviously, we could talk Thunder for an extended period, but let's talk must-see TV. The must-see TV segment. Is there a game coming up that you feel like is must-see TV for sports fans around here?
Must-see TV. Well, not tonight's game. Not Dallas.
Thunder Mavericks,
But if you're looking at a Thunder game coming up, I think Saturday night's going to be interesting because Charlotte's not any good. But they got a guy that you need Kendrick Perkins for.
Yeah.
And it's a good preview, and that's Al Jefferson on the low block. Adams isn't going to be back. Perkins is gone. I don't even know if Cantor will be here. Maybe I hope Cantor's here, just I'd like to see him guarding Al Jefferson. But if he doesn't play Tuesday night, guess who's here? Roy Hibbert's in the building. If Cantor's not ready by Tuesday night, I want to know what the deal is.
Right.
So these immediate games against the East, and then so in the next week, I would say those two games just to see how the Thunder plays post defense against two really good centers.
Yeah.
Without Kendrick Perkins.
Okay. I'm going to go off of the Thunder for a second because I agree. I think that everybody's going to be watching with some bated breath in these early games to see how it does go. And you know what? There are some people that are really excited about the Thunder moves today. I get that. They can be excited. That's cool. Yeah. I'm personally, I'm with Barry, worried about not playing games without Kendrick Perkins, a guy that was transformative to this franchise. Remember what the Thunder was like defensively before Kendrick Perkins came around?
Yeah, I remember Paul Gasol's putback. I remember that.
Yeah. And as soon as they get Perkins, everybody says, the Thunder's got some defensive teeth. Well, guess what? They lost some teeth today. So how that all looks, I'm curious to see. But if you're looking for a college game, that Saturday afternoon game up in Stillwater, West Virginia comes to play the Cowboys. OSU has hit a little slump right here. Lost to Iowa State, a game they really should have won on Wednesday night. And they need to get back in the win column. Home games, you can't give up home wins if you want to have a good chance to get in the NCAA tournament. OSU stands pretty good shape right now, but West Virginia is a team that matches up pretty well with OSU, guards being the strength. So in my mind, OSU needs to get a win, a home win against West Virginia. They haven't played West Virginia yet this year. I think they'll be hungry to get out there and get a win. But to me, if you're looking for a non-Thunder must-see TV, it's that game against West Virginia on Saturday.
It's big for OSU. I am actually a little confident that the Cowboys can handle West Virginia, although I think it's going to be close. Every game they play seems to be close.
Yeah.
And they're a strange team. I don't know how OSU swept Baylor and Texas, for crying out loud. You watch the teams and you look at the rosters, and one team's way better. But I actually think that the Cowboys match up okay with West Virginia because you mentioned all that West Virginia guards and the press and all that. Mm-hmm. The one offensive thing Cowboys have going for them is they handle the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
They've got what almost amounts to 3 point guards in the starting lineup. Newberry's solid, Forte's solid ball handler, and Hickey's fantastic. So I think they can handle that West Virginia press. And if you don't let West Virginia turn you over, they lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. West Virginia came to Norman and just got blown out, and they shot terrible. I forgot, something in the 30s, but couldn't make a shot at all. And somebody from Oklahoma asked Bob Huggins after the game, what was wrong with your shooting? You know, what happened tonight with your shooting? And he said, well, that's the way we always shoot. And he wasn't trying to be funny. He's dour, he said, no, that's just us. We can't make a shot. They get their baskets by turnovers and easy baskets. If they have to just line up and score on you, they're not going to do it. So if OSU takes care of the ball, I think they win. And that's the one thing Cowboys do relatively well, or really well. They take care of the ball.
Yeah. By the way, if you want a really off the thunder, we talked about this, speaking of press row in our videos earlier this week. The Baylor women come to town to play OU next week on Wednesday night. If you're looking for something that's really kind of off Main Street, to me that's an interesting game. We've got an NCAA women's regional here in a few weeks that's going to determine a Final Four team. Apparently, Baylor's just become a powerhouse. That's all there is to it. They're winning regardless of, do they have a star? No Odyssey Sims, no Brittany Griner. Apparently, Kim Mulk has got it all figured out down there in Waco.
Well, I mean, it must-see TV if you like to watch horror movies where everybody gets chopped up. You like to see the bad. If you like to see the bad guy win, go to Norman. Watch OU women play Baylor.
Okay, must-see TV segment done and out. Barry, let's talk about Athlete of the Week. Let's do an Athlete of the Week segment. Who have you been most impressed by? What athlete have you been most impressed by this week?
Athlete of the Week in the annals of sport. Any sport.
You can go in any sport if you want.
Alex Rodriguez is not on my list. Wasn't crazy about his apology. Athlete of the Week. You know who's a guy that sort of impressed me last night at Stillwater? Mm-hmm. Georges Niang, the Iowa State guy. This is a guy that a month ago was mentioned as a Big 12 Player of the Year candidate, and frankly might still be to some degree, but he hasn't been playing great, fallen off the map a little bit, and played not good last night, got in foul trouble, ended up sitting a whole bunch of the game, and with the Cyclones down 4 with 2.5 minutes left,
Here he comes,
drives to the basket, makes his own follow shot to get Iowa State within 2. Then after they take a 1-point lead, Iowa State with 30 seconds left, 25 seconds left, Iowa State runs the clock down, less than 6-7 seconds on the shot clock. Here comes Niang, makes a short jumper in the paint. Just really a sort of a hybrid guy, 6'8", 6'7", guards about anybody, handles the ball.
Is he an NBA guy?
I don't know if he's athletic enough.
I don't know if he is either.
But he's really a good ball player. So it impresses me when guys have bad games and can still, at the end of games, come through. You know who's the greatest at that is Russell Westbrook, for crying out loud. I mean, Russell can go 4 of 19 and in the last 2 minutes still beat you and not even think about it. So to me, that's good. When guys don't get down, it really impresses me. And it looks like Niang has had some, he's had some hard times the last few weeks, and still is leading that Iowa State team. I got to be honest. I love Iowa State basketball. I love
fun to watch.
I love Fred Hoiberg. I love their style. I love their fans. They go to the NCAA tournament and always put on a good show. They lose to Connecticut in sort of a shaky fashion. Lose to Ohio State, was that year before last, in a really squishy call. So the Cyclones do Big 12 basketball proud.
Definitely so, yeah.
Who do you like?
I think my athlete of the week, I mean, you mentioned Russell Westbrook. I could easily go with him. Great all-star performance, but it's the all-star game. I mean, there's a lot of shots and points to be had. He's obviously playing fantastic basketball. To me, he's a guy that you've got to look at as, just really starting to hit a stride. So I could go with Russell Westbrook, but I'm going to give a nod to somebody I'm working on a column about. I think it's going to come out Saturday. The wrestler. This gal named Emily Webster. She's 4'9", Barry. And she told me on a heavy day she's 103 pounds. I doubt she was 100 pounds when I talked to her. She wrestles at 101 pounds at the college level. She just won her 4th national championship, one of a very small handful of women that have done that, and she was undefeated her entire career.
Unbeaten and untied.
Unbeaten and untied.
And Sanderson of women's wrestling.
And, wait, there's more. She won this last one with a torn ACL. Tore her ACL a month before the national championships, wrestled with a torn ACL and won.
Really?
And she dominated.
Well, that's interesting.
She won by technical fall, pin, technical fall, and in the finals, she technical falled the gal in the first period. Didn't get to the second period.
Day.
So she is phenomenal. You're going to want to check out that story, but it's under the radar.
Where's
She is from Sedalia, Missouri, and is a chemistry major. She has a 3.95
I'm
GPA.
glad we have chemistry majors. I'm glad I wasn't one, but I'm glad we have them to figure out the world.
Yeah, exactly. She apparently has she had 1 A- during her college career.
Really?
And her coach told me it really made her mad.
Well, that's a good reason to get rid of the plus and minus stuff. Just give everybody an
Yeah.
A, just make it A, B, and C, and don't distinguish.
It seems like she definitely deserved that perfection after a great college sports career too. So I'll give it up to Emily Webster, my athlete of the week. Okay, lastly, Barry, last segment before we're out on this inaugural press row podcast yet to be named, whatever we want to call this thing. Let's talk about one-on-one. Who is the sports personality right now that you'd most like to score a one-on-one interview with?
One-on-one interview. Well, this is a fantasy question. So,
Yeah, but
in that world, would they actually open up? I mean, I'm serious. Would they actually open up?
Well, I guess there's that hope in a one-on-one situation. You could talk to them for a while, and they might actually tell you some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I find Bill Belichick to be completely fascinating.
Is he talking at the NFL Combine? I mean, all these coaches and GMs have been
Now,
there.
I don't remember him coming by. You know, I was at the Combine one year, and all the coaches and GMs walked by, but I don't remember Belichick. That doesn't sound. Most of it's a volunteer basis.
Okay.
I don't think
He's not volunteering.
He's not into he's not a member of the Tennessee Nation. He is no volunteer. So, but if you're talking about somebody I'd just like to sit and talk with that would talk, I'd have to go elsewhere. And
anybody making headlines right now that you'd like to talk to?
I would like to sit down. Well, yes, there is.
Okay.
There is, and he's not far. Heck, he may be a block and a half from us right now. And I said this even before our dust up a month ago. I would love to sit down and talk with Russell Westbrook and try to figure out what he's all about and what's in his head. Because, you know this, we never get to sit and talk with these guys on any kind of real basis. We never got to have a conversation. When he got all worked up with me the other day for no good reason, someone said, how'd that make you feel? I said, I came away encouraged. I thought it was the highlight of our relationship because it's the first time ever that I had confirmation that he knew who I was.
Right.
I knew he did know who I was, but I'd never had acknowledgement from him.
Right.
I'd like to sit down and he's a fascinating character. Mm-hmm. He's a fascinating personality.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out what makes him tick. I would like to. That would be a fun interview.
Yeah, that would be a fun interview. I think with all the news swirling around the Thunder and the trade deadline, and obviously now that we're out of the All-Star break, we may get him in a press conference setting very soon, Barry. But to me, an interesting one-on-one would be Sam Presti. On the record, one-on-one, to talk about what exactly went down these last 7 to 10 days. Because, I think the belief was that Reggie Jackson was going to stay. They were going to be able to potentially re-sign him this summer. That was all the indications we'd gotten from Sam. And then obviously the news from the Jackson camp that no, he wanted to be traded. And so where was Sam when he got that call? What does he start to do? I mean, you obviously you'd like to maybe see if you could get a deal done without the world knowing that you want to do a deal. So what does he do? Who does he talk to? How does he try to keep it under wraps? Because apparently they did for quite a while. It wasn't until the day before the trade deadline that news came out. So what did he do? How did he? That to me is one thing that we really haven't been able to crack, is just how Sam Presti does all of his stuff, and we'll probably never know. I mean,
that would be fascinating. Just how does the day or two before the trade deadline? How's that even work? Is he constantly on the phone? He was at the OU Texas game Tuesday night, so I knew that he wasn't really doing much business unless it was through texting.
Yeah,
he wasn't. He took out 3 or 4 hours for that, or 2 hours at least for that. But yeah, how does that work? Does he do all the talking? Does Troy Weaver help him? Does Troy talk to certain number of teams? Sam has got a certain number of teams, whoever.
Yeah.
The whole process of the trade deadline. I mean, how does that? You want to trade for Enos Kanter.
Right.
And
who calls who?
And you want to send Reggie to Detroit. Yeah, are you talking to them and then get off and talk to somebody else, or is it a 3-way communique? I don't know. That the process would be fascinating.
Yeah, to me, everything that we were witnessing in the 45 minutes, 60 minutes before the trade deadline was, well, Indiana's interested. Okay, Detroit's interested. No, they're going to do something with Miami involved in a deal, and Norris Cole and this. I mean, we're hearing so much stuff. It's hard to keep it all straight, when we're not in the middle of it. If you're in the middle of it, I mean, I'm just imagining, 16 phones, and I mean, how does that work? And I'm sure that if you're a part of an NBA franchise, it becomes routine, and it's just part of the way that your world works. It's kind of like when we're on deadline and we've got 10 minutes, and suddenly somebody hits a game winner at the end of the game, and you got to write a column in 8 minutes. Like, we do that. It stinks, but we do it every once in a while, and you just roll with it. But that's not my world. I'm not in an NBA front office, so I want to know what's that like. So if Sam Presti would ever cop to it and say, on Monday this happened, on Tuesday this happened, and then in the hour before I talked to this guy and this front office and this agent, I would just be interested. The process, like you say, that to me is really interesting. And I don't think we've ever sort of scratched behind that surface at all with Sam Presti.
Let me ask you a question. When Kevin Costner, Draft Day, came out.
I didn't see that.
I didn't either, but I need to see it. But also, I didn't see any reviews or any stories that talked to real NFL GMs to see how accurate it was.
That's good, yeah.
So, I mean, if they say, you know what, it's actually pretty close, then that would be worth seeing, because the draft is a little bit the same, not quite as the problem you've got with the trade deadline is you got three different factions. You got the other team involved in a trade, and you got the player and his agent and all that nonsense. In the NBA, the players rule, so it's a sort of a triangle relationship. Whereas the draft, it's pretty much a 2-way street with player and team. So, that would be fascinating to find out what goes on in trade deadline day.
Thudner, sign me up for that one-on-one with Sam Presti. All right, that's it for the inaugural Press Row podcast yet to be named. If you've got a suggestion for us, a name, a segment, something you'd like to hear us talk about, you can reach us at our email addresses, btramel@opubco.com and jcarlson@opubco.com. I look forward to doing this again, Barry.
It'll be good. You know what what we're going to do? I'm going to interview you at a podcast. We're going to find out all there is to know about Jackie O, a.k.a. Jenni Carlson.
Well, that might be the least exciting podcast of all time, but maybe that can be a segment.
Everything you wanted to know about Clay Center, Kansas.
That's definitely not that interesting. But I tell you what, I like this idea of getting some of our sports folks in here and introducing them.
I don't know about that.
But yeah, I think it'd be fun, Barry.
We're by far the most interesting two people in the sports department. We don't want to go much deeper than that.
And with that, we'll bid you adieu.